If you have to live, you are gonna do what you gotta do. But seeing that, I'm like, okay, they're bad. I don't like cops. Hence why, I don't want certain people around, like as in law enforcement, all this kind of stuff. All they are there to actually do is to make sure we are safe.
Subject's kind of hot on people, but defunding police has been one of the topics that were brought up. I mean, do we really want to have no police? Is that our goal? No, we don't want. I mean, I personally, I can't say that for anybody else, but I personally would want, if I have something happen, I want to hit 911 and have someone be able to respond to my house, especially as we have these laws changing really, really fast. Yeah. We really don't know what's legal and what's not. So at some point you might come in contact with a situation that we don't want to be in or life-threatening. And at that point, that's what we have our police for. That's not for us to just want to just pull it out and like that we don't need these people. Right. It all seems really bizarre, some of the topics that have been coming up now in life. Yeah. So, and especially now being we are a real community, how it impacts us is going to be a big difference, especially if we grow and shrink our police department or there's big things that need to happen for all of us, and we all really need to pay attention.
Absolutely, and I think, the clear answer in every situation, in my opinion, the answer to everything is education, always education. But how do you implement it? Well, when it comes to the police, police officers need more education. They need more training. You can't do that if you take funds away. But also, we need education, right? There's so many misconceptions, and you see it on the internet all the time. Some guy that saw a TikTok video, right? TikTok's ruined our youth, by the way, but saw some TikTok video of some guy that stepped up to a police officer and said, I know my rights, blah, blah, blah. They don't even show the whole video, but they just make it seem like this guy just won, and then he went and got a lawsuit, got a bunch of money, and that cop got fired. They villainized the cop in that situation, and all these people are looking at these YouTube videos and TikTok videos, and that's what's in their head. So any interaction they have with police is very different than, say, when we were growing up. Yeah, a police officer was an authority figure. Yeah. And the a-hole cops, you always knew who they were, but they were anomalies. The grand majority of them were helpful, and you treat them with respect. And if you didn't, then you saw the a-hole side of them, and you didn't want to do that, but they also didn't want to do that. That's not how it worked. Nowadays, California is a very litigious state. It just has been.
Ooh, yeah, it's strict.
Yes.
It's strict, so yeah.
Yeah, I always, part of my plan, was, military after my 20 years. Maybe I'll go into law enforcement, but the longer I lived here in California, the more I realized I would not do it in California. Just because of people's attitude towards police officers, even, 10, 15 years ago. Nowadays, it's widespread across the nation. But even back then, a CHP officer pulls you over, and why'd you pull me over? I wasn't even going that fast, blah, blah, blah. Again, I was raised in New Mexico. Okay. A state cop pulls you over in New Mexico, you better, sir, you better this and that. He's going to give you an earful, more old school stuff. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's what you see.
That's when you just hit that topic. I think that's where a lot of us are lacking anymore, is respect towards one another, respect towards people, and manners towards our elderly or our officers or the people of service, like yourself.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, and again. I'm a speak on both sides type of thing, right? I say we shouldn't defund the police, right? Because they need more training. We need more education, blah, blah, blah. We need to have respect for each other. But also, I understand where the gripe is coming from. There has been, before there was video cameras on every single phone, I'm sure there was plenty of police officers in many places overstepping their authority and abusing the citizens. Yeah. That's very true. We're tired of it, and that's why people are up in arms about it. And I agree. Those guys need to definitely, that badge does not give you, all encompassing power, but also there has been a lot of, I think part of the problem is there's been a lot of almost militarization of police forces. Okay. That I agree. Like, why does when the police gets more funding, what do? They go buy an armored vehicle and buy whatever brand new assault weapons for the entire force and more guns, and they should have that, but it needs to be it needs to match what the requirement is, not just because it's a cool thing. And again, me being that type of alpha male type guy who likes guns and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I can see the coolness about it. And if I was a cop, I'd probably, when the money came, I'd probably vote for, yeah, let's get no cool new guns, right? Because you kind of get, you kind of get in the moment, and that's what you consider cool and what you like. But when you take a step back and look at the big picture, hey, how about some more training, right? More hours of training. Instead of all these cops that make a bunch of money because they're always putting in overtime, let's put in some money into, you know, recruiting more people to the force so that they're not all having to work overtime. More training, more education for these guys, you know, whatever. In any successful unit in the military, I know for sure, it's all in the training, right? They're not just badasses because they are. No, it's the training. Before you go overseas, you spend months training up your unit to a cohesive unit that's well trained. I was in aviation maintenance, you know, and in a unit like that, you have to put the wrench down for a few hours a week at least and do some training, right? Brush up on safety measures and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, police force should be no different. It takes money to do that. So just put the money in the right place instead of the more armored vehicles and more. You don't need that in a city, you know. You know.
Yeah, and like I would say, it makes sense because, you know, when I was small and I was still growing up, I was around a lot of drugs, right? So I would see a lot of cops, you know, blue and red were like, who are they? No. And I would say at first, all because of who I was around, I'm like, they are bad. Why? Like either mom, whoever would get locked up. And I'm like, no, I hate them. Okay, cool. Why? I had to kind of come back now and see. I'm like, oh.